Oh. Hooray. Can I check actually, are we doing the one person view thing for the recording so it's not watching everyone constantly? It's just if you change your view, I've noticed it records whatever. Okay, thank you, thank you. Well, in that case, welcome. This is the August 2022 Jupyter Community Call. I'm Isabella, I'm gonna be your host today, and I'm super excited because we have a bunch of things on the agenda to run through. If you haven't been here before, this call is meant to celebrate what's happening in the Jupyter community, help us kind of build bridges across our sub-communities, and just give us a chance to all talk with each other without needing to maybe fix things or talk development, just be excited about everything that people do. It's kind of a show and tell style. So what we're going to do is follow the agenda that I've linked. I think everyone has been here since I last linked, but I will do that again in a moment. And that means we're just going to kind of go through bit by bit. We do have things on the agenda today. We might have a little time for something if you are so excited by what we have shared that you want to do that. If not, I am happy to link the agenda for the next call and you can always show up for that. So with no further ado, we will get started on the agenda. Yay. The first thing is actually our like short reports, celebrations, kind of short things that don't need discussion. I don't see anything on the list there right now, but I will be quiet for a couple seconds to give y'all a chance. This could be a great time to announce like releases. We have this event coming up. This exciting thing happened. This maybe not exciting, but very important infrastructure thing you might not have noticed happened. Those kind of things. Okay. No announcements. I think that's rare. Usually it's the other way around, but I'm okay with that. I bet you we're going to get kind of announcements anyway, so great. I will say though quickly, thank you all for being here. It's really awesome to see a different group of people. So shout out to all of you who this may be not like a community call that you go to normally. Shout out for being here. Thank you. And then I'm going to move to the agenda items. The first thing that we have is, I'm not sure because there's not a name. I think it could apply to a few people, but I believe, Jeremy, you wanted to talk about NAS some?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here, actually. Thank you, Isabella, for introducing me and the NAS project. So what we want to start maybe saying is like NAS is a project that was born out of a bunch of people, me, my brother, and other people that are like coming from the business side of analysis and data. We discovered Jupyter when we were actually doing financial reports, business reports for different companies. And we were stuck with Excel, VBA. So we were like really stuck into whatever we were doing. So we got started with Jupyter at that point. And it was like a magical moment for us, really, to discover the interface, the way to play out with Python. And it was really game-changing for the way we can build reports interactively with a clear auditing document where you can share your thoughts and everything. So it was all very, very magical for us to get from this Excel to the notebook. And what we figured out quickly was that as we were just like newcomers in the ecosystem, we were missing a bit some kind of easy start. And we started building a library of templates, basically. So the templates are the key of what we are building right now. And we have built over the past year 450 templates on the GitHub repository that I'm going to show on different topics using different tools. And we have also worked on a few layers to augment Jupyter notebooks, the Jupyter instance, with some layers that we call the features. which are like production features like scheduling, asset sharing, dependencies, notification that you can add inside your notebook to really create automation with your notebook. So this was made by investigating into Papermill, the component that Netflix is using. So we have been using Papermill to build this layer. We have another layer called the drivers, which are like a Python library to abstract connection to different tools. So the templates, which is the third layer, look very simple and neat. So basically NAS is Jupyter plus 3 layers: automation layer, connector layer, and template layer. And right now we are like we have been like helped by AWS to deploy this in the cloud. So we have a cloud offering and an open source, pure open source project as well. And we have around 3,000 people that signed up last year, 50 contributors that have already contributed to the template repository. We have a few thousand stars on GitHub, and it's really, really great to be able to share what we've been building with you guys today. So thank you for welcoming us here. Should I maybe like get into conversation or question, or just go through the templates presentation?
I think we can pause for questions and then go in, but pause just for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Could you please share a link to your page and to the repo? I'd love to take a look.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
See the agenda, we'll be able to follow in the future as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to just share the repo and discuss around it with you guys right now, if it's okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Can I just share the screen then? Yeah.
I think so. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, our vision is to use Jupyter as an all-in-one data platform. Basically, when you get into data science, you just want to stay in Jupyter because it's like a comfortable place to be. You want to be able to run your script, deploy, do everything basically from the notebook interface. So this was our first intention, and this is why we have built those layers on top of Jupyter. So you have here you have the repository, and you have the 3 layers.
Yeah, he's here.
Was that a question?
I think people just maybe if you're not talking, if you could mute, that'd be great. I think we're getting some mixed stuff.
Okay. So yeah, Diane, as you were asking, so there is three repositories that are key to NAS. The first one is the NAS repo. On this one, you will have all the scheduling, the API features, the asset feature, everything that you need to actually run microservices on top of the Jupyter environment and transform your notebooks into bots, basically. In this repository driver, you will have all the different tools that we have been abstracting as a small Python files. And you will see that in templates, you basically have all those list of tools you can use. So for example, we can take something like this Yahoo Finance one. And let's say you want to use Jupyter, you have your script on Jupyter and you want to automate some kind of emails daily to get prediction on a stock price, which is a classic kind of thing, an example that you can have in NAS. So you go into this repository, you find out like Yahoo is your data source, you want to go into this notebook. And then we have this little button where you can directly open the notebook into the cloud infrastructure. And there is the template. So I'm just going to click on it and go through the whole like experience. So people find us through the templates. We do a lot of content in social media. We try to push a lot of like contributors to create and add their own templates to the repository. And we offer the opportunity to get this template like run into the cloud infrastructure that we provide. And if you look at this template, it's always the same thing. It's always the same pattern. We have structured it this way. So you have the input section, the model section, and the output section. So in the input section, you will import your different libraries. Let's say you want to follow the price of Tesla for the last 100 days. You want to predict 20 data points in the future. You want to send yourself an email. So you will replace this email. And basically, once you have the setup done, you will be able to also expose assets, create Excel outputs, image outputs that will be shareable, and also schedule the notebook with this little formula. So nas.scheduler.add would be the formula that creates a copy of your notebook, and then the NAS features the feature layer will take this notebook and schedule it at the right time. So directly from this ecosystem, you can have like something running on schedule. So if you like run this, basically this will activate all the cells, of course, but you can see also that there is some level of abstraction that is done at the connector level. So the driver repository that I was talking to you about is about creating very simple one-line formula to access to different tools. And so for instance, we have this Yahoo Finance one where you only pass the ticker. So Tesla, date from, date to, and then you have your data frame. You have this other one, which is the prediction column. The prediction column are added through this driver. You pass the data set, you add the column date, and then you have your ARIMA, linear regression, and so on. And if you want to have your chart, we also have a driver on Plotly, where you pass only a few parameters and you have your nice chart popping up like this. So the whole result of this is you want to share basically an email that will look like this. Hello world, like any analyst would send an email to like management team or colleagues. You could reuse this template to make it your own, basically. But what you have is a PNG file that is exposed here. You have a click for open the dynamic chart through our like public URL. You have also the ability to send the email again, to send this again, and to trigger the notebook through the webbook feature. So basically, in this example, you can see, and you can also send the notification through your emails like this by just like with this only little formula. You pass the email to the subject, you pass the whole object that you want to send, and that's it. You will get this in your mailbox. So yeah, that's an example that shows actually what we are building in terms of the library of templates on different tools, on different topics, but also on the ability to add another layer to Jupyter for automation and for connectivity with different tools. And the end goal is that those templates can actually be the building blocks of something greater, which is like building a full software experience, a full data product experience by using the templates as components. So if you want, I can elaborate on this, but I can also pause and chat with you guys if you have questions.
I think I'm processing questions still.
Yeah.
But no, I was thinking of a few, but I was like, maybe it's, yeah.
I hope it was clear. If it was not clear, I can definitely deep dive and explain whatever.
So I think Well, you gave us an example of one template, right? And you said there's a
Mhm.
lot. Are there any topics or like common themes you're seeing in a lot of the templates? Are there
Yeah,
gaps, anything like that that you would want to point out even? Like of, oh,
yeah.
we want
So
this.
we have like gathered quite a lot of issues. So the idea is to really go and build a big catalog of templates. That's I think the main thing that we want to bring to the Jupyter community is to like motivate other people that are really like domain focus or expertise focus oriented to create this big catalog of templates that can be used for anything from exploratory to building blocks of something which is much close to a software.
I'm seeing those issues. Yeah, that's a lot. How do you get those? It looks like some are from, well, there's a mix of people, but I'm definitely seeing some of them from you. Are a lot of these template ideas coming from how
Yeah,
you're seeing people use them? Is this?
all those templates here, you mean?
No, I mean all the issues that are requesting for templates. Like, how
Yeah,
are you running into those somewhere else and realizing, oh, we should have that? Are these use cases that
yeah,
you need? I think those are really interesting to see because they're so
yeah,
specific.
yeah. It's very specific on some tools. And so basically what we did last year is, as we launched this cloud Jupyter plus automation feature on top and templates, we saw that many people came to us like, hey, I want to automate this with this. I'm currently using something like Zapier or yeah, or Make. I don't know if you know those tools, those automation, no code automation tools. And they said like, hey, basically I'm stuck and I'm confined to the UI. So I'm really down to have a notebook to actually be able to write my own business rule into those templates and to use the scheduling feature, the asset feature that NAS provides to create a more like advanced automation. So this list of issue comes basically from the most important tools and actions that we have identified to really create a great and useful library of templates. So it's coming from different inputs, basically, yeah.
Interesting. So are you taking only when there's requests, or you kind of have a matrix maybe in your head or somewhere that says like, these are common tools and we want ones that intersect all of these?
No, it's really open. It's really open.
Okay.
So it's really open to anyone to get and come with. Basically, the thing is, everybody has a few notebooks running for some tools that have already been done in the past, and they have it on their local computer and their clunky name, or not structured in a certain way. So we want to enforce a structure for the template, like input, model, and output. And we also want to enforce like a kind of a framework for organizing all this in a nice way. Yeah, that's pretty.
Sorry, Tony, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
This is an incredible collection of notebooks. I know it. I imagine it must have taken a lot of time. My question, this is a little bit of a loaded question because I still think that we lack search approaches with notebooks. But man, how am I supposed to find the notebook that's meant for me in this repository? And like, this kind of, I mean, this is not a thing about NAS. This is almost in general, right? When I find people who are prolific at notebooks, there's a notebook in here that I should be reading, right? How do I find that? And I don't think that there's a particularly good answer to it. I just know, like, to me, this starts becoming a problem. Like, how do I start to find the notebooks that I need to find?
Yeah, I totally get you. So right now we have 400 plus 450 something notebooks. So it's starting to become a problem. Before it was okay because you can just go through the list of tools like, hey, I want to automate, I want to go and use Hugging Face. And I want to like, okay, I have a few templates here. I can probably add one or, but we definitely have this search experience question right now. How do we discover those notebooks? And we are about to launch actually a project this week with our open source community, and we are happy to like have everyone jump in, because the idea is to create some kind of of an experience like this, where you would be able to like get into asking questions or putting keywords and get some suggestions of notebooks that already exist in the repository. So basically this little search will go into the JSON that is right here, which is the collection of all the templates, and it will read the keywords here, read the hashtags, and take the link, which will automatically lead you to open this notebook into your environment. So that's what we are working on right now, because we have this search experience also problem that is raised right now through this list of templates. Sorry. Does that answer your question, Tony? Sorry.
I think you're getting a thumbs up from Tony.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Darian.
I had a question that is about the different repos. So I was looking at the collection of notebooks, and I noticed your license is BSD for the notebooks, and that for the software, your license is AGPL. And I was curious what your thought process was around licensing of the software that you're releasing.
So the idea is like the templates should be completely free and open source. Everything is like based on, we don't want to block any contributor or any people who wants to contribute to the template. So I think that's why I'm not an expert actually in this like licensing thing. It's probably most likely Maxime, my CTO, who could answer this more accurately. But the only difference between the template repository, which is you can reuse everywhere, and the NAS layers for features and connectors, is that when you use the NAS features like nas.scheduler.add and the cron task, you are basically using a microservice, and this microservice needs to be hosted somewhere somehow in the cloud infrastructure. So that's probably the reason why we have two approaches. But I'm not an expert on this. I think other people in the team should be able to answer that more accurately. Does that answer?
If I can like just step in, I think like we didn't like spend too much time on licensing yet, because first, we don't really have any experts in our team or any contributors that ask us this kind of question and saying, hey, we should take a look at licensing between the different projects. So it's definitely something we need to consider updating in the near future. Definitely, nothing is fixed for now.
The basic reasoning behind this is we want to keep this thing open source as much as possible, but there is some things that we need to deploy in the cloud, and that these things are actually a bit more tricky. It's about Kubernetes, it's about Dockerized like machines that we provide. So that's probably where there is a line to put. So that's the basic reasoning.
Cool, thanks for the answer.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And so the idea in the future is to go from just having this list of templates to actually use those templates to create like products. And so this is why I wanted to also introduce you to, okay, we have this product template here. So once you're inside the NAS ecosystem, let's say, you want to just pick and choose different templates and bundle them together to create like automation. So we have this data product template, and the structure is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with DBT or this kind of transformation tool, but they also have a certain structure to their tools, to their project. So this is what we want to do. We want to have a setting kind of notebook where you will set up your different credentials and things you want to configure. Then you will have your model section, and in your model section, you can have all the templates that you're using that are like triggered using the percentage run function inside Jupyter. So this way you can use these templates to do this action, this templates to do another action, and so on, and create your product in really less time that it would have take you if you would have done it from scratch. So if you have any thoughts on this, it's a work in progress. We are just starting with this, so we are really happy to like get any feedback on this, and because I know that there is also other approach to like productionize notebook and use notebooks in production. This is definitely the vein in which we are trying to find our way.
Yeah, no, I like the kind of forward-looking question. I did notice that Repo was private. Is the plan to keep it private indefinitely, or is it because it's working? I think it was data products template.
Oh yeah, no. The idea is to fully open source it. We are just working on it right now. There is one that is currently running, and this is the one, and it's fully public. You can use it, and it's creating basically a dashboard of all your content, social media inside Notion. So for example, if we go there and there, we can share. It will create, sorry. It will create an output like this. So you have all your like reports of like, for example, you could use it for the Jupyter page. Like you would have all your followers, all of the views, the likes of every communication that goes through the NAS, the NAS or the Jupyter page, and get the frequency of the post, etc. So all of those little elements that you have here are actually one template that you bundle from this model page, LinkedIn, and you have all this like list of templates that are being used to create this greater product. And they are like orchestrated through this pipeline file. So all the different templates are declared, and then they are orchestrated into like the order that you need to trigger them. So that's how it looks for the first try of this data product we are creating. I mean, maybe you could use it too for the Jupyter accounts.
That is, I have some questions, but I also want to be quiet for a moment because I think we need to transition to another agenda item in like a few minutes. So if anyone has questions they'd like to get in before we switch, we can always circle back if we have time. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm very interested in the widget thing. I feel like I've seen a lot of different, what would I say, like kind of dashboardy, pulling in different element shares at this point in running the calls, which is really cool. So I'm always curious to kind of pick apart the differences there, but that'll probably take a little longer. So yeah.
The idea is to be completely agnostic of the output. It can be a thing on Notion or anywhere in the open source world. We're also building stuff with Dash. So yeah, it's basically really open, and we are just iterating and trying to learn how we can improve this and create some kind of an interesting offering for both small and middle-sized companies that just wants to get things done with the notebooks. I think that's the idea now. Now that we have this base and this foundation, this is where we're going.
Yeah, I actually think we have one question in the chat, and then probably I'll switch agenda items. But Tony asked, with all the notebooks, does NAS import /reuse /cross-reference notebooks at all?
by cross-referencing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think,
So
yeah.
do you mean like that we re-import like from a notebook, we will import an existing notebook and run it, for example?
Yeah, yeah, right. Because like a big organization's gonna like, there's gonna be one notebook that makes decisions, but there's gonna be a lot of
Yeah.
other notebooks that feed into that. So
Yeah.
yeah, is there
Yeah.
any kind of like
So
hundreds of notebooks? Is there like a master one in places or in a few places or something?
yeah, so basically when we do a data project, what we do is that we have some kind of master notebook, which will like do some kind of setup, and then we'll run all of the other notebooks. But also, like, to avoid like repeating ourselves too much, what we have is NAS driver, and NAS driver is basically a Python library where we can abstract a lot of complexity that we see being recurrent in notebooks. That way we don't have to, like, we when we do like a driver, for example, in Notion, you don't want like to rebuild the Notion connection, etc., and how to deal with, I don't know, a page every time. So all of this, we will embed it into this Python package. So that's the way we do it. Yeah. I'm trying to give short answers because I don't know how much time we have.
I think, thanks, Max. I think it's all good.
Yeah, thank you so much. There is a lot to dig into here, so I really appreciate it. I'm glad we got to see these shares. I've been waiting for them.
Thank you, Isabella, for
Thank you, everyone.
welcoming us here.
Yeah, no, and always happy to see you again if you end up having different stuff you want to share.
Yeah, yeah, of course. We plan to come more often.
Hooray! Yeah, no, I love to see the templating stuff. I like to see resources people can reuse just as a, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but with that though, I want to make sure I leave time switching to, we either are going to have Linda or Bosco or Frederic presenting.
It sounds it's gonna, oh, sorry guys, it sounds it's gonna be me.
Well, always welcome.
So sorry, I have a poor connection. Hopefully it's gonna be okay for the demo. So for the, I think, last 3 semesters, there's been a MLH program. So MLH stands for Major League Hacker. So the idea is that some private companies that are organizing or training for students, and the students, they're gonna work either on open source project or on closed source project. And we are lucky that one of the client of MLH, they are interested in Jupyter Lab, and specifically on the Git extension. So they funded 2 students for the 3 last semester. And so I was wanting to share with you what the 2 students of this semester have done. If everything is crashing, so don't hesitate to just download the latest version or have a look at least at the changelog to see what's new. And I will try to share my screen, show you quickly what they have done. They're nice stuff. So you can see my screen.
I'm losing your audio, son.
Huge number of files that
Same
are
here.
untracked or changed. You could. Let me at least try to shut down my video. Hopefully, it's gonna help. Is it
I
better?
think that helped. Yeah. I think so.
So the idea before is like you can only pick up one file, or you can decide to track all the file at the same times. And the student, they've implemented the capability of just being able to say control click, so you can pick up multiple files, or like shift click, so you can have a bunch of them and then do action on them. So like, okay, I want to stage them, or I want to like open them. So things like this. Of course, if the file is not supported, it doesn't work, but just to show you what's the idea here. So that's one of the things the student have done. That was a tricky one. Another one that is very nice is like, no, we have a graph for showing what's going on the branch history. So let's make it a bit this array, you can see a bit more what's going on. And that also what they've changed for in the past. So when you are committing in Git, you have the summary, you can add addition to the summary. And now they have changed that. So if you click on a note, you will also get the description in addition to the summary. So that's a nice addition. And a small addition that can be very nice too is that now also you can see the branch you are in next to the Git logo on the status bar. So if I switch to another branch, hopefully it's gonna work. Okay, and then you can see that the branch name has been updated. And what else? What else? Oh yeah, the last thing they have improved is the ability to manage multiple remotes. So now you can there is a new dialog in which you can see all the remote you have for a repository. You can add some or remove it, and so with it also you can decide when you are pushing. You can go for a advanced push, and you can pick up the distant repository you want to push for. So yeah, that was the demo in 3 minutes. So feel free to test, report bugs, and just like anything that's useful to improve the extension.
Yeah, thank you for sharing and powering through the connection. I personally love to see these updates every term, so I really enjoyed watching what each round of students does. Any other thoughts on that? Get excited?
I think it's super cool, and that we would probably implement it into our instance at NAS. That would be great to have. It's actually something that I've been looking up to, because enforcing Git is in the Jupyter development process is something that we felt, even with our contributors, it was hard to get some strong connection to Git. So this is definitely a good add-on. Thank you for building this.
You're welcome. I'm mainly maintaining it today, but
yeah, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I know it's a longer conversation, but I'm also just really interested in having 3, terms of students working with you. Are there any takeaways that you would want to share with that? Maybe that's a little tangential and you don't want to share that now, and that's fine. But I know sometimes contribution workflows, even to an extension like that, can be complicated. Is there anything you've learned what it's like to kind of bring people in every couple of months?
The trick is really as the
Oh, I think we're losing you
presenter
again.
for answering
Oh.
the question. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I asked a complicated question maybe at a bad time. Go ahead, though.
No. And so yeah, the real trick is to be there at least at the beginning, to be able to answer most of their questions, especially because like the Git extension is already a tough one, because there is a side on the server side and there is a side on the front end side. And so there is already quite a lot of things to understand in the way the software is working. So what we are doing every time is first also to list a couple of small issues that they can use as entry points to start to dig into the code, because that's easier to go inside the code when you have something to do than just trying to look at the various file. And I mean, like after 2 or 3 months, they can definitely start to be very independent in trying to solve the trouble. So, or either I got lucky, but I don't think so. I think it's achievable.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I'd be super.
Sure that I'm pretty sure your literacy in Jupyter Lab really helps too. Like having been to a lot of places before, I think that we have to acknowledge that as being a big benefit for these students, probably, right?
You mean as a maintainer to have
Well,
seen
like, right,
the
'cause
different
we've
side
tried-
of the.
You know, we're always trying to onboard people, right, and do the best we can. But like, when I say we, I'm talking like me and Isabella ish, right? But we're not slinging code the way you are. So, I think sometimes when we're onboarding people and trying to help them understand such a large code base, we come up against some misunderstandings ourselves because we don't know. But I feel like your experience is a big benefit here.
Yeah, for sure it helps because I've been working in a while with the code. That's definitely helping. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. I'm going to give people a few more seconds with questions here. Any other thoughts on this extension? I know it's a pretty popular one. And there's been a lot of changes over these last 3 terms, or at least that's what I'm seeing from the demos. It's super cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much powering through the connection. But yeah, definitely saw the demo, and thanks for linking the changelog too. I love to read changelogs. That probably sounded like sarcastic, but it wasn't. Gabriel, what did you have to say?
I missed what this program was. That was I see on the agenda it's MLH. What is that an acronym for?
Major League Hackers. I'll answer that for the connection.
Thanks, Isabella. So if you want a bit more details, it's like there's private companies that say we're interested in supporting that open source library or stuff like that. And so their role is to contact the maintainer of the project and try to figure out if the guys can help or not. So that will depend on which kind of support they will need to provide to the student. And then they put everybody together, meaning like the student, the client, and the maintainer. And then you get basically, as a maintainer, you get free time of other people. So that's always cool.
Yeah, that's a great explanation.
Yeah, Darian, that's exactly the website. Yeah, that's the correct one.
Awesome. I think I'm going to switch to the next agenda item unless any last minute. Wait, Isabella. Okay. Darian, it's your turn.
Thanks. I would like to talk about 2 totally unrelated things. The first one is about Lumino, the library and toolkit underlying Jupyter Lab and Notebook 7. And we are releasing a major version of Lumino, the second major version. It's a slow-moving library. It's meant to not change very much. And we've had things in it for a few years now that have been deprecated but kept because it's meant to not be that disruptive. But now is a good opportunity to change them. So there are 2 groups of users who will notice the benefits from this. One is people who work on either core or third-party extensions. And the changes you will notice are there are more native concepts that you probably already know that are now part of Lumino, whereas before there were kind of our version, because Lumino came out at a time before all the browsers we wanted to support had native iterators. So there was a whole set of data structures and utility functions that gave you the same sort of footprint that native JavaScript iterators do, but now we use just the native ones. But more importantly, there's some nice new APIs. So Fred, who was just talking, has been working on the ability to dynamically deactivate plugins. Normally, well, not normally, up until now, in Jupyter Lab, if you uninstall an extension or disable it, it requires at the barest minimum a page refresh, but more frequently a server restart. But now we have the basis for deactivating plugins without having to refresh your page. This hasn't landed in lab yet, but this is the underlying set of tools you need to have something like live extension, plugging and unplugging. And it's pretty cool. I also linked to the PR that updates Jupyter Lab from Lumino 1 to Lumino 2, so you get a sense of what kind of code changes might percolate down to your extension if you maintain an extension. For the most part, it's just updating your library versions. And if you were using custom Lumino iterators, switching to native. But it should be fairly lightweight. Jupyter Lab is a very large code base, and you can see that the amount of changes that actually touch code are pretty minimal. This is still ongoing. We have a couple alphas out for Lumino 2, but I think there's a few more features we want to land. So the first link there is to the project board in case you're interested in that sort of thing. I'll wait a second to see if you have any Lumino 2 questions before moving to the totally unrelated other topic. Cool. So I mentioned this last call, but now some things have moved. In the next 3 months, Jupyter is changing its governance structure from having a benevolent dictator for life, a BDFL, plus a Jupyter Steering Council, to a model that is different councils at different tiers of the project. So each sub-project has its own group of decision makers who are named. And then there's a group of delegates from each of those sub-projects called the Software Steering Council, where they make decisions on Jupyter enhancement proposals, and cross-project technical conversations can happen there. And there is a Jupyter Executive Council that is in the process of forming as well. And we are hoping that all of this happens in the next 3 months. It doesn't really have that big a practical effect on most people's day-to-day, other than you kind of now have an easier way to discover who to talk to if you have a question, or how to get a decision made if you want to advocate for something, as opposed to kind of knowing the right people, or that sort of dynamic that can happen in a smaller project. And yeah, I think it'll be good. I think there will be more conversation around this as we continue. A lot of it is fairly familiar if you're active in Jupyter, because we've been talking about it now for quite some time, but I figured it doesn't hurt to raise it again. And that's it.
And I actually really appreciate it being raised again on a recorded call. I guess we've had that with the Jupyter Lab calls now, but sometimes when people ask me things, it's great to have a place to point them. So thank you for the continued updates. I'm sure you're a little like, man, I get to say this over and over, but I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I see.
I have one, if it's okay. I would like to understand what's the motivation behind the change of the governance structure?
Yeah, so Jupyter has grown organically for a long time, right? It started as IPython almost 20 years ago, and then it changed to Jupyter in like 2014. And for the longest time, it was basically, if you participate in the project and you become a contributor who's been around for a couple years, then we would ask you if you want to join the Jupyter Steering Council. And the Steering Council was a decision-making body where if it couldn't reach consensus, it would have the backstop of going to Fernando, the founder of the project, to say, hey, help us sort this out. But that model is probably more appropriate for a smaller project. And the steering council grew to be 17 people and then stopped there because 17 is already too large. But, you know, contributors kept coming. And there's a lot of people who at that point, we didn't have this way of acknowledging their participation. So part of the new governance was creating this concept of the Jupyter Distinguished Contributor, which is an award and a recognition. You get your picture on the webpage, you get some recognition for what you've done, and it comes without any sort of obligation to do more work. You're not now, you know, bound to show up to a bunch of meetings and that kind of thing. And also, I think as it grew bigger, Fernando didn't really want to be a dictator anymore, right? And benevolent dictator for life, you ought to have the right to step down. So that, I think, is part of what motivated it. And also, each project is kind of running itself already, but it's running itself, you know, it was running itself in an informal way. And informal governance often leads to who do you know and who's popular. And it's, you know, there's this foundational essay that a lot of us found really influential that you can look up called The Tyranny of Structurelessness. And it's about what happens when you don't actually know where accountability truly is. And it creates these sort of structures that are difficult to navigate and not always fair. Right. And so instead, we just thought, all right, well, how does this project actually run? How can we best represent the way it actually is functioning? And how do we make sure that the bottlenecks that we found in the past, like getting 17 people to decide anything is hard, how do we make sure those bottlenecks go away? And we've been working on rewriting the governance for a couple years now. COVID didn't help, right? If we'd been meeting in person, that probably would have gone a bit faster, but actually not that much faster probably, because it's hard to get buy-in and consensus from a project that's going to be this size and to build something that truly fairly represents the contributors and gives them the ability to direct and guide the portions of the project they work on. Yeah, and that is the right essay. Thanks, Isabella.
I see. Okay, and that's very interesting. So you basically go from a kind of dictatorial, as you said, system to a more decentralized with pods of streams of activities, and everyone can jump in those different streams and work on it, right?
I don't want to overstate how dictatorial the last system was, because it really was almost always the case that the Jupyter Steering Council made the decisions. It was more that if the Steering Council ever found itself in a deadlock, that was the backstop. And the moral authority always came from, well, I founded the project and everyone respects me, and that sort of dynamic. But you know, if you compare it to other organizations, whether they are businesses or governments or local or whatever, like after some time, you need to have representation at many different levels, right? So you have your homeowners association, which in America is a terrible thing, but in other countries actually might work, right? And then you have local councils and school boards, and then you have, you know, city government and state government. And, you know, so these sorts of tiers, I think the larger the group of people working on this project is, the more we need to figure out how do we make sure that when the Jupyter server team meets and they want to bring in a new sub-project, a new project that, you know, isn't part of Jupyter into the Jupyter server sub-project, how do they do it, right? Is it just one person flips a switch, or is it like there's a group of people who can talk about it and make a decision? And that happening in a formal way is fundamentally just more fair. And at least then you can say, hey, look, 8 people voted against it, and that's why we're not doing it. It's not just because I don't like you, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
thing.
That's clear.
Weird tangent before we wrap up, because we are going to run into the security call. And speaking, I'm not in charge of any governance things, but one thing I've already seen too is like, for me, I can follow projects I need to follow and like answer questions there. And I don't need, like, for example, nobody's asking me like, hey, Isabella, what do you think to vote on this thing that you know nothing about because you're not following that project, has been like a perhaps not intended benefit. But usually like I'm close enough to things that I'm being asked about now too, which I really like. So maybe that's a weird, but yes, we are running into the security call. So sorry, you can continue conversations later. I don't want to wrap up, but Darian, did you have anything you wanted to finalize there?
No, I actually need to go to another call and I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But yes, thank you everyone for being here. I hope to see you next month. And yeah, this recording will be up in the next few weeks and then you can share it around as you wish. So thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.